All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be getting into the top round one showdown plays here for the Open Championship. So for those of you that might be new to the channel and whatnot, the showdown content and the picks is probably one of the best spots really for fantasy golf. It has been for the past 2 years or so. My biggest struggle with giving out showdown content is that kind of hurts my ability to have a really awesome day when you guys are taking advantage of it. Last week, 3 out of the 4 slates were profitable slates. 2 units profited, which not elite, but not bad. Previous week was able to take down Showdown GPP, and I'll show you guys the process about going at which doing that. And then also a month ago, another Showdown GPP taking down. So typically speaking, there is a big edge there. Tough to really exactly say why, but it has been a nice spot. Okay, really round 2 showdown is typically one of the better ones, or round 1 showdown. We're gonna go through the process of that in this video. Just a reminder, guys, smash that like button. I feel like the likes are not ever as should be. I've been getting out the best fantasy golf content for really the past 5 years now. Let's get those numbers up. We need to bump those numbers up. Matthew McConaughey would be disappointed. And then just looking at the weather report real quick, just trying to find the best wind. Now, typically speaking, I like to look at the PGA Tour weather or the DP Tour weather to get the weather report. That for me is a consistent source. That's kind of the thing that I want to echo more and more and more, is be taking your data from a consistent source, and you should be successful in the long term as long as it is the correct data source. But looking at, we will see about 10 mile-per-hour winds in the early AM, and it does get a little bit higher throughout the day, but nothing too bad. 14 mile-per-hour winds tomorrow. So for the most part, maybe not too much of a factor in terms of the wind. Now, maybe the greens do play a little bit easier with the maybe AM showers. You know, we'll see how that plays out. But typically speaking, I do like to target the AMT time players. So looking at it, it's kind of a simple process. So you go into the 9 to 5 showdown tool, click the round that we are going into, and then all you really need to do is go to the breakdown. And so really what we're looking for is the showdown rank. You can see the season-long rank for that said round. You can see the fantasy point projections there as well. So looking at it right now, actually Ricky would be the top round 1 showdown play, then Rory, then Scotty, then Hovland, then Xander, then Rahm, then Bryson. And it's actually really shocking how many times like a top 5% play is vastly underowned. Tommy Fleetwood Hatton last week as well. They're kind of underowned. Last week we had the low round golfer 2 out of the 4 slates, which albeit typically speaking, I would say it's actually a little bit higher than that. So we'll see if that happens again. But just looking at the early 2 times, this is kind of the emphasis that I want to go in and put into the 9 to 5 lineup tool. Okay, so what we're looking at: Ricky, Scotty, Xander, Bryson. Bryson is being very undervalued. He'd probably come in underowned on the showdown slate. Fleetwood, Clark, Gooch, Smith. I like Smith. And the DP Tour players, if you want to get more exposure to them, as you might want to, just know that their data is a little bit skewed because of the Live Tour. So like if you want to be on something like Brooks, probably need to bump up his fantasy point projection a little bit. Same thing with Cameron Smith. And I might do that. I think they're probably going to be good plays. Same thing with like someone like Louis Oosthuizen, who's casually popping up there as well. So we get a good feel of who we should be on. Let's go ahead and put that into the 9 to 5 lineup build. And I just want to remind everyone that this is available just for $10 a month. All access to these tools is available just for $10 a month. All right, so on the website, we go to the drop-down menu on the golf tab, go to PGA leaderboard or PGA lineup builder, okay? Then we go to, click on this, we go to Showdown. Simple as that. It's going to pull up the Showdown. And so now looking at, we do know that we want to be on those AMT time guys. So what I'm going to go and do is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to player groups, and I'm going to go to, I want at least 5 of these players that have that AMT time. And so we're just going to put an emphasis on these players that were all popping up. Those are the players that I want to be on the most. Okay, so I'm literally just going to go through and do it like this, like Ricky number 1, then Scotty was 1. We're going to go through that process and update this. All right, so I went ahead and put in about the top 20 or so players for the showdown slate. And then I added in a couple of players that I kind of want to be on a little bit more personally. Maybe Robert McIntyre, okay, Matthew Jordan, the member there who has the earliest tee time. I think I want to be on him. With a play like him, it's like if he has that course knowledge, it is tough to see him not playing at least somewhat well. Okay, for a guy that's made 6 straight cuts on the DP Tour. Now, it could be one of those situations in which he puts too much pressure on himself too and just is terrible. But that's like a risk I'm willing to take. Andrew Putnam, I feel like, is vastly underrated this week. He's a player that I want to get some exposure to, especially in a showdown scenario like this. And then Lee Hodges as well. I feel like he's a little bit undervalued. So we're going to go ahead and click save. Then the one thing we need to do before we run any lineups is just change our exposures to some of the players. So like say we did want to be on maybe Brooks a little bit more, but maybe not too much. Just cap his exposure to maybe 20% for that round 1 showdown slate. And then with that, we know we want to be on Xander. So we'll change that. And then let's go ahead and go to some of those other players like Andrew Putnam that I know I want to be on a little bit more than maybe the data is suggesting. So like Matthew Jordan, here's a perfect example of that. I know I want to be on a little bit more than that. I'm going to bump up his projection a decent amount. If he's not pulling in the proper way, I'm going to go back into this and bump up his fantasy point projection because I know I want to be on him a decent amount. So I got someone like Robert McIntyre. Yeah, we want to bump up his projection as well, maybe 45 or so. We'll see. We'll come back in and see if we need to make some adjustments there. It's not all we need to do from there, and this has kind of been the thing that's helped me win a bunch of Showdown GPPs this year, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you've been using it. 3 unique players, max exposure 35%. Okay, do that, generate. And I struggle to say that because if more people start using it, obviously start to lose that edge more and more. It's a weird balancing act for Showdown because it's not big enough. If it was like fantasy football, I wouldn't care. It's a weird balancing act there. Looking at the players, let's see. Ricky, we're getting good. Probably don't want that much of Fitzpatrick or Adam Scott. Fitzpatrick was very vocal about maybe this might not be the best tournament for him. So what I'm going to do, because I know I don't want to be on Fitzpatrick that much, and then probably Matthew Jordan don't want to be on that much, probably Harris English don't want to be on that much. There's a bunch of players that, yes, we want to be on, but maybe not want to be on that much. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to show usage, click on the latest build. Now we're going to bump some projections down. You can either do max exposure or projection. If you're going to be bumping down a lot of exposures to players, it's going to not help the lineup optimizer. Bump the fantasy point projections down for the most part. Like Jason Day here, probably don't want to be on that much. So some slight adjustments made here, and even maybe Adam Scott of like 35%. Okay, so Jason Day as well, maybe like 20. Let's generate that again. And now it is still working the way we would want. Maybe Hideki we need to bump down as well. We might need to lock in maybe Xander, maybe Scotty. Okay, so I'm going to bump up Scotty's projection because I know I want to be on him in some capacity. And same thing with Cameron Smith. For Scotty, I'm going to lock him into, let's say, 25% of our builds. Okay, I feel pretty comfortable with that. Then I'm also going to go back into this, see someone like Hideki. I don't think I want to be on Hideki that much. 25% max exposure. And typically speaking, I don't change it this much, but with it being the Open Championship, with us having a higher plethora of good plays, I feel like I can tweak it a little bit more to be on the players that I want to be on a little bit more than what the data is suggesting. Okay, so probably a little bit too much Andrew Putnam now and Robert McIntyre, but that's because we locked in a play like Scotty Scheffler at 25% projected ownership. Still not terrible. Let's go ahead and make a few more tweaks here. And so this is what kind of the final result is looking like now. I might do some small tweaks here and there. I might add in another rule, which would be maybe player groups. And I want at least, and then maybe like Ricky Fowler, Xander, maybe Bryson. Like I might pull in the players I want to be on a little bit more. I might say I want at least 2 of those players in every build, maybe 3 as well, just to echo that I want to be on those players a little bit more. Because like Bryson, you know, I can bump up his projection here. Bryson at 5%. I want to be on him a little bit more than that. And maybe someone like Shane Lowry, I want to be on him a little bit more than what we're getting currently. So a simple thing that I do is just, all right, projection's a little bit low. Let's just bump it up to like 53. And maybe we cap his exposure then a little bit. And then looking at someone like Shane Lowry, another play that I want to be on just a little bit more. We can bump up his projection as well. And then also probably cap it at like, let's say 20. We can generate it. And then we are getting our proper exposures to these players a little bit better. Danny McCarthy, we're still getting a lot of Ricky, Wyndham Clark, Xander. You know, we're getting those top plays. Probably still a little bit too much Harris English. Might bump that down to 20. Same thing with Adam Scott. Might bump that down to 20 just to spread it out a little bit. But for the most part, we are getting good exposures to the top plays that we want to be on this week. And then if we go to the original one, this is what it's looking like. If you guys want to enter in this build, you can. But I like the exposures that we're getting now. It's proper spread amongst these players. That's all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe. That does help the channel. If you guys want access to that cheat sheet, to the lineup builder, to any of the fantasy golf tools, or any of the tools I just see on my website, it is available for just $10 a month. I price that for you guys to give you guys access to that premium information at a fraction of the cost. Take advantage of it. All right. Let's have a good slate today. Let's make some good builds. Let's have a profitable week. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.